Hello, thank you for joining us. We're going to get into this draft here shortly. Ranked Theros Beyond Death. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so, and we'll get into this. This is my first ranked draft video of a series that I'm starting, which hopefully we'll have them weekly. Right off the top, we got a Dream Trawler. What a wonderful pull to see on your first pack. That was worth the 5,000 coins right out of the gate, regardless of whether we win any games or get any other good cards, in my opinion. 5 packs for a Dream Trawler, 1,000 coins per pack. Yeah, that pans out. As you see, I'm already starting to look to blue and white cards as I want to use that in the concept. I discovered after all this that is probably one of the strongest cards you could pull. We got a Revoke Existence there. That card being a enchantment removal in Theros Draft, you know, the enchantments are the main meat and potatoes of this series, so having enchantment removal is very, very nice to have. A lot of people won't narrow down what they want to play in the draft until after their third or fourth pull. Me, generally speaking, I can tell right off the first pack on what I want to do, and I go with that. There's a Wave Mystic. I really wish I would have picked that. After the games that I played in this draft, I realized that is a super strong concept, being able to mill your opponent for the amount of damage that it does. Especially if you're pumping it up with enchantments. You don't have to do damage to a player to mill them. And when you have a 40-card deck and limited copies because you're drafting, you can put some really nice stuff in the graveyard and force your opponent into a position where they don't have much left to deal with you. Pick up an Omen of the Sun. We can flash in 2 1/1 creatures and then sack it later to scry. That 2/2 flash flyer for cheap is really nice. So is the 0/5. A 0/5 for 2. Your opponent doesn't know that you have a 5 power blocker. That can really make a difference early game when it comes to reducing damage. We're getting down to just a few cards here. While that 1-drop is really nice, I don't particularly like the idea of having to pay 7 to draw cards. That's not going to happen in a draft. Here we have the option to do more mill. We'll go ahead and pick that up. The Sage of Mysteries. Every time you cast an enchantment, you mill 2 off the top of your opponent's deck. Again, in a 40-card deck, mill is very strong. Now this 2/4 for 3. That's a really nice, again, early game. 4 defense with a 2 attack. You know, you're taking out a lot of your smaller early game things, and you've got a strong, solid blocker there. That was a nice pick. Not a lot of options here. We'll go ahead and pick up the enters the battlefield, draw 1, discard 1. Now we're just picking up an extra card, as red and green are not in our concept. A couple of good ones. This enchantment, you know, at the beginning of your turn, or at the beginning of your end step, if you did damage to your opponent, you exile a card. You could play that card until you exile another one. I've already got quite a few copies of that. Didn't really need that enchantment. I would have rather taken the creature, but, you know, hey, there's another Wave Mystic. And I believe we go ahead and pick it up. In the future, that will be, if I'm running blue, that's a guaranteed pick. I don't know how many times in these games. Well, you'll see here soon. I mill 4 off top people constantly with that card. If I'd have known how strong it was when I drafted, I would have picked up extra copies. I think we see a total of 5. It's a common. Now that Flicker of Fate, It's a really nice card. It exiles, but really it's more of a defense card in this. Whereas, you know, you don't want to exile your opponent's card and bring it back to the battlefield. There's a lot of enter the battlefield effects, and I'm not too keen on giving my opponent the opportunity to do that or being limited in the ability to use it. Now, when it comes to the revoke existence, where you exile an artifact or an enchantment, that's fine. That's great removal, especially for cheap. Looks like we picked up an Omen of the Sea there. Again, a flash card. This deck is starting to pan out as, let's cast things on my opponent's turn. Unseen threats, unseen defense. Those are all factors that, when it comes to your opponent's choice making, you know, you make it to where they are able to, where they have to make decisions rather than rely on the merit of the cards on the field. If they don't know all the information and they have to make decisions, human error becomes one of the biggest factors in swaying the pace of the game. I'm a firm believer that not enough people use those concepts in Magic. They rely too much on the merit of the card and not enough on their ability to play and to manipulate their opponent. Looks like we're going to go ahead and pick up the 2/2 flyer for flash. Again, always nice. There's another Wave Mystic. Always nice to be able to throw in another card, another creature there, especially a 2/2 flyer. I mean, throw it at the end of their turn. There's not a lot of, I don't believe there's any reach. Maybe there's a little bit of reach. I don't know. I can't recall off the top of my head. But there's not a lot of reach in Theros, so going over the top just makes sense. Here we picked up the Mantle. That Mantle is a flash enchantment that gives your creature +1/+1 and hexproof till end of turn. There's another Wave Mystic, and we choose not to take it. Instead, we take the Immortal Will, which is actually a really good enchantment as well. Again, flash. It's a 1/2 enchantment, so you get that unseen defense, and your opponent doesn't see it coming. Allows you to block a little stronger, especially with these low defense creatures that we have. It's really nice to be able to pump those up from like a 2/1 to a 3/3 on the instant. They don't see that coming. Here we'll go ahead and pick up the Tactics. It's an instant. Again, we can cast it on their turn. Target creature gets +2, is it +2/+2? And then all other creatures you control get +1/+1 till end of turn. Again, creatures are larger than what they appear. Another Flicker of Fate. Card tempts us continuously throughout this draft. We do not want the Flicker of Fate. While it's a great defensive card, again, you do not want to use that against your opponent and have them having enter the battlefield effects. It's really pointless. At best, all it's doing is delaying an attack, because you can flicker it during their attack phase, and then the creature is removed from combat, but you're still dealing with it next turn, so really all you've done is postpone. And especially in a 40-card deck, you don't want to postpone, you want to remove. That's why Mill works so well, that's why Exile works so well. We're just down to the last couple of cards, red and green. We don't need any of these cards, they're just finishing out the pack. There's a Kraken. We'll go ahead and pick that up. Anytime you draw a card, you can pay 1, create a 1/1 blue creature. Really smart pull. Now I had the choice between the Chimera and the Devotion to White guy over here on the far left. Personally, looking back at it, I think I would have picked the Devotion to White, but I believe I went with the Chimera because we were looking at flying, and in Theros draft, flying is huge. Going over your opponent while they are unable to block, significant advantage. Not to mention its reduced casting cost based on your Devotion to White, which, you know, it's not hard to cast that for 3. Now we got a Dawn Evangel. That's a really nice card. Anytime a creature dies, if it had an enchantment on it, you can return a creature with power 2 or with converted mana cost 2 or less to your hand. As you can see here, we have a lot of low casting creatures. Enchantments are going to be on them. That would make a good choice. We did not take that. We took the Omen of the Sun, though. There's another Wave Mystic. We went ahead and picked that one up. I'm very glad I went ahead and picked that up. Field of Ruin. Hey, that's one of my favorite lands. Omen of the Sea. Again, we're looking at Flash. Oh, there's another Wave Mystic. That's a really good card there. Another Flicker of Fate. Like I said, those tempt us continuously. I can't believe the Wave Mystic. I picked it because it was the only thing left. If I were doing this draft live, instead of doing an audio commentary post-draft, I really would have picked that Mystic up. In the future, that will be a staple pull in any blue deck that I'm making. Even at a 2-1, if you block with it, you're milling 2. If you attack with it, they block, you're milling 2. And if you can pump it, it's going to be even better. That Lionfish, that's a great card. When you cast your first spell on your opponent's turn, tap target non-land permanent. Great way to get them big creatures out of the way, your opponent, especially when you're running a flash deck like this. Excuse me. Just a little note, this is the second time I've gone through the audio recording. I am still really new at this. Hey, there's the Dawn Evangel again. Let's go ahead and pick that up. I'm really new at this. Forgive the commentary if it's not up to par. This is new, and I'm trying to start this series. The more I do this, the more proficient I'll get at it. So I appreciate you bearing with me. Anyways, there's our packs. We've got all the cards selected now, and unfortunately there's quite the lag spike here. My device seems to bottom out on the CPU from time to time, and if you're ever playing me and you find that I'm being super slow, it's probably not because I'm thinking. Anyways, we'll get to it here in just a second. We'll thin the deck down. Let's first get rid of all of the cards that are not blue and white. Probably don't need the flying there. Get rid of all the green, all the red, and we still have quite a few cards left. Now, you'll notice I keep going up here to this. I'm trying to figure out how many cards are in the deck because my little icon for my game recording is right over the top of the number of cards. So, yeah, I'm trying to count. And you're probably thinking, Ant, why can't you do basic math? Oh, I'm tired. Let's just put it that way. Chimera is really nice. It didn't really work out, though. You know, I did cast it for cheaper, but it just wasn't a significant card in the deck. I would have liked to have had maybe another Wave Mystic or something along that line in its place, but overall, I was pretty happy with the deck and the cards that we got out of it. And we're going to go ahead and thin down that... what is that? Staggering Insight. The 1 blue and 1 white. Gives the creature +1/+1. If the creature deals damage to an opponent, you get to draw a card. Nice, but really not effective in this, as most of the enchantments you see here and most of the cards that we play that either pump or things of that nature are all on the flash. And that gives us a lot more leeway in play. It also eliminates the opportunity of our opponent knowing exactly how big our creatures are and what they're capable of. They're always in the back of their mind thinking, what else could be coming? And when you're running blue, they've also got in the back of their mind, what are you looking to counter? When you have 3 mana open, as you can see, I can cast almost anything in this deck on the flash for less than 3. So if I'm holding 3 mana, you're wondering whether or not I have a counterspell. You're wondering whether or not I'm going to play something else because you've seen me play Flash so many times that it starts playing on your mind. And like I've said before, when it comes to swaying the influence of a game, human error and choice are the biggest factors that you can influence in the game. Rely less on the merit of the card and the skill of when to play something, getting into the mind of your opponent. That Wave Mystic is so nice. Same with the Mantle. You get a +1/+1 hexproof on the Flash. They don't see it coming. Very, very strong. Don't really need tap down. The Lionfish does that for us, and it's not a one-off. On top of that, that was a sorcery. We really don't want sorceries. We want to be able to play as much out of our hand at any given time as possible. While that 2/4 was really nice, again, we just really don't need a 2/4 when it comes to not being able to do anything. Same with that one. 4-drop for a 2/5. Very strong defense, but in all reality, our biggest defense right now is the ability to surprise the opponent. You know, the Omen of the Sun drops 2/1/1s on the Flash. You got so many different ways to pump your creatures, and now looking at 12 creatures, so have to manipulate things a little bit here so that we can get the proper number in here. Don't really need the Chain of Memory. It's a nice instant, but it's a one-off. And you don't need the Sheep Dread. Get that out of there. So that's 3 cards we can loosen up. And we're still at 46 cards. Now, while I was drafting this, I couldn't see exactly how many cards I had. I knew I had 40-something. But again, the recording icon was right over the top of that, and I was unable to move it. That Riptide Turtle is great. 05 for 2 on the Flash. Great early game defense. I dropped 1 land right there. I think 16 is more appropriate than 17 when you're looking at a 2 to 3 drop casting. I try to, when it comes to my lands, I really don't know a lot about a 40-card draft deck when it comes to land, creature, and otherwise. My goal here was really more like a 17 creatures, 16, 17 creatures, 16, 17 land. The computer wanted to give me 17 land, so we reduced that to 16 just to give a little more space. With the low casting cost, that seems to have worked out. I'm still learning these things. The draft is a new concept to me, so as we do more of these, you'll see my proficiency increase and be able to make better choices. I'm sure if you're watching this, you've probably seen a few different errors that I've made. Going back on and looking at my draft as I recorded this a couple of days ago, and now doing an audio commentary to it, I can see some things I would have done differently. It looks like we're at 41 cards. I do go back and give this one more look over when I can actually see after the recording. In any case, it looks like we've got it pretty well set, and I will see you in the first game. Thanks for watching.